felt like a used car salesman. I didn't really like holding Tom and Susie's hand while they're buying their first home. It was way too emotional of a purchase. Mortgages, I color with crayons. It wasn't, I don't think I was smart enough for that. But property management was just the right amount of operational importance. I could be organized and have processes that I liked. And it was just enough drama. It was like reality TV that I was like, ooh, I could get my fix and I could, be building something, building a business, and there was still some sales. So property management fit the needle at that time. So I was doing a little bit of sales and I was focused on growing this little property management business that I had. And lo and behold, I opened my own company, Golden West, in 2004. And we just celebrated last year our 20th anniversary. So it just crept up on me like that.
That is so wild. Welcome to another episode of Before You Knew Me. I am actually here with one of my most favorite people. You guys are going to hear me say that a lot. I like a lot of people. Jayson especially is just a super awesome dude. And I'll never forget the day I have had a history with Jayson through many of the companies I worked for. But the last company I was with, I emailed Jayson. It was a new company. And he responded, maybe you should spell your prospect's name right before you try to sell them. And I was like, oh my God. Jayson and I have been able to establish a very awesome friendship ever since. Jayson with a Y. So thank you, Jayson, for being here. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Anytime I get with you is awesome. Not only do you have a zest for life, but the fact that we're in the same industry, it's funny because I get to see you at random places, at random conferences, and random people that I know in the industry too. And it's pretty cool. So in addition to being
Connections
one
are
of my
everything.
favorite people as well, I get to see you
Thank
randomly.
you. Thank you. I like living at random. That's important to me. And connections are everything. So I love knowing people outside of people's circles and being able to connect those people. And that's really important to me too. I love it.
True story. I'm sitting in my Phoenix office and one of the reps in Phoenix is like, you know her? Yes, I do. She's the best ever. She was just at our conference. That's my bestie. I'm like, how do you two know each other? Yeah, everybody knows you and loves you, and you're a gem. And so,
well, I would not be where I am today with all the wonderful people in the property management world. I will say that. And I don't even know how I originally found you, Jayson, because you weren't part of NARPM. I'm not sure you even are to this day, but I don't know how I originally found you, which is like a needle in a haystack. And I'm so glad. It's such a happy accident. But it's I don't even know. Most people I know that story. It's like, oh, we had a list, right? Like I don't even know how I found you. I think it might have been social media, to be honest. I think I might have added you.
Do you think that it stems from Property Mail? Do you think it stems from there or no?
Yeah, I know I talked to you when I was at Property Meld.
And then
I just don't know
maybe some
how.
other places, yeah. It's a
Yeah.
small industry. Like, do you know that our industry is only maturing over the last 20 years? It's only growing up over the last 20 years. And when I first started this, you were a realtor and maybe you did some property management on the side, or you were a
Me?
big conglomerate. No, like
Okay.
companies, right? So as the industry's grown up, the new players that sprouted out over the last 20 years, everybody knows each other. And if you worked at one company, you might have worked at another company, but you still know all the same people.
Yeah.
I'm sure that since you never went away and I never went away, we were bound to see each other regularly.
Bound. And it's been the best thing ever. I got to go down. I've been to your San Diego office. San Diego, right?
Yep.
Correct?
Yep.
Been to your San Diego office. I've been to your Arizona office in Phoenix. And I guess the last place I need to go is Vegas.
But we hung out in Vegas at
We did.
a NARPM conference in Vegas. But yeah, you didn't go to the office. So
No, I did not go to the office. I missed out on the opportunity. I know. That is true. Well, tell me a little bit about you, Jayson. Like, where did you grow up? Where'd you come from? How did you get into property management in the first place? I mean, because obviously you had to start somewhere.
Well, first and foremost, my parents are from New York. So I was originally from New York. And after I was born, a couple years later, they came out to California. So I hail from Orange County, the Huntington, Newport Beach area. And that's where I lived my whole life until I went to the University of Arizona. So that was the first time I actually got out of California. And
Mhm.
that's important because one, I went to the Harvard of the Southwest, the University of Arizona. Go Cats, bear down. Fabulous, fabulous place. Okay. An
Mhm.
institution of immense higher education and learning.
Mhm.
But it was also there that I interned for a top producer. And basically, what she had told me was, hey, what her clients were buying high end homes in California for, they could get a bathroom for what they could get in Arizona.
Mhm.
And so she was like, hey, I'm going to send my clients to buy investment property around the U of A, and I would like you to manage them. And so she paid for me to get my license, and she started this journey. And 20
Dang.
years later, I'm still doing property management.
That's wild.
That's
So,
wild.
like, did you just, I mean, what sparked your interest to go into it? I mean, obviously,
That's a
she
good
kind
point.
of approached you into that, and then you had to make the decision to do it.
So I had interned with a commercial realtor, and it was no fun like making packets back in those days. Like what you could ask your title rep for, they would send us down to like the city to pull all those records. It was crazy, pre-internet days basically. And I'm not even that old, and it was super early. And then the
Hey.
top producer that I interned for, she was a salesperson who also had a mortgage office. Like they used a door to separate the two back in the day where you didn't need two licenses. I was learning all these things, and I really didn't sales. I felt like a used car salesman. I didn't really like holding Tom and Susie's hand while they're buying their first home. It was way too emotional of a purchase. Mortgages, I color with crayons. It wasn't, I don't think I was smart enough for that. But property management was just the right amount of operational importance. I could be organized and have processes that I liked. And it was just enough drama. It's like reality TV that I was like, ooh, I could get my fix, and I could, be building something, building a business, and there was still some sales. So
Hmm.
property management fit the needle at that time. So I was doing a little bit of sales, and I was focused on growing this little property management business that I had. And lo and behold, I opened my own company, Golden West, in 2004, and we just celebrated last year our 20th anniversary. So it just
That's
crept up on me
wild.
like that.
That is so wild. Yeah, that doesn't even feel like it would be that long ago, right?
Well, I was super young when I started, so that's why I'm super young now. I look devilishly young and handsome because I am.
Which is amazing because property management is a stressful deal. And so when you talk about the drama, when you talk about, it was just kind of that mixture of everything, I have always given high kudos to any property manager I meet because hearing all the things that you guys have to go through and deal with, I'm like, there is no way I would be able to handle that. But it takes all kinds to make the world go around, right? So, what would you say? I mean, just to try and get to know you a bit more, like, what would you say had huge influence on who you were as a person in order to go into a job like that?
So, a couple things. First of all, from a person influence standpoint, my parents they're very amazing. Like my mom was a very successful entrepreneur, tech CEO. She was coming through the ranks when women were still getting whistled at in the boardroom. And I tell the story all the time because I think it really puts some perspective on what was going on then versus today. When my mom
Mhm.
retired, and I think it was early 2000s, I'm not sure, I was there, and she had like 60 women going around the room saying, Karen was a trailblazer. Karen helped me get through this. Karen helped me do that. I was like looking at her like, you didn't do that, mom. What are you talking about? But that's how amazing she was. And the second story I tell about her, just to be able to compare, is that she had a picture on her nightstand. I think she might still have it, where she was in like Switzerland at the Computer Associates, or maybe it was the Oracle, like VP associates year end big dinner blowout, whatever. There are 10 men on a stage in tuxedos, and there's my mom in a red dress, the only woman on the stage getting an award. And it really goes to show that somebody who worked at Computer Associates, Oracle, the high ranking executive, and then starting her own firms, like she was really a person who taught me about being an entrepreneur, running a business, and how to solve and handle complex problems. And I really appreciate that. And then my parents are divorced, and my stepdad is just a guy's guy, super smart, and has always helped me. Like he used to do the sports scores and like we basketball and baseball games. And my dad, who our family is, they're all get along pretty well. My dad is also, former military, one of the toughest guys I know. He owns a trucking company, and I don't think I've ever seen him be sick a day in his life. I think he sold his company after 40 years, and I've never seen him miss a 6:30 a.m. Deadline being there. So I had a lot of in-house mentorship to go like, that's a lot to live up to. Like, that's the way we do business appropriately. And so it was a great pathway as I transitioned to, wanting to do my own thing or wanting to own my own business. And the most important thing they always told me is like, hey, if you work hard and you put your mind to it, you can do anything. And they weren't going to do it for me, but they were like, yeah, you can do it. Get out there. Let's see it. And so I really appreciate that kind of encouragement. It's something that I would love to pass on to my children. Now, I got to add one more thing in that really set the stage. Having mentors and colleagues, having my parents has been great. But also the last piece of the puzzle, I think that helped make me successful is that in 2005, there was a war going on, and I'd always grown up playing with G.I. Joes, and I'm like, I have this business, and I'm starting to do okay, but I think I want to maybe do a quick change. And so I joined the Marine Corps, and I joined the Marine Infantry, and I spent a first couple years as an enlisted Marine and then transitioned to an officer before I got out in end of 2011. And that experience was a game changer in terms of being responsible for other people, leading other people, understanding what it means to be dedicated to a process and to what it means to achieve success and not accept failure as anything but an obstacle on your road to being successful. So I really think that was my MBA or my finishing school, as you would put it. But during that time, my ex-wife at the time, she ran the company and we were really small, and I would do it after hours and on the weekends I would help out. But we had like 40, 50 properties or whatever, and we just had, one office. And then when I returned, I was able to focus and reorient. And then from, start of 2012 on, I've just been focused on growing Golden West, and all that background, all that leadership and mentorship helped me be able to then turn the spigot on and really start to grow. And again, 20 plus now years later, I'm blessed to have the people I have around me, the clients we have, and the organization that we have.
You do have a very impressive network. Somebody who loves to connect with people. I see that through not only knowing you personally, but I see it through your company. And you just have the biggest cheerleaders like all over the place, which is amazing. And that also speaks a lot to your character for sure. I was also thinking whenever you were talking about just transitioning into the military life, which you just talked about so nonchalantly, I said, didn't he start the company in 2004? And then poof. I mean, most people can't keep a business alive, after they start it being there. And then you decide to head off into the sunset. And I'm like, what? How did that?
Look,
how did he do that?
Kudos to Devin. She helped, she made this thing run while I was gone. And look, I spent every waking moment, I was married. I spent every waking moment that I wasn't training my Marines or learning to be a better Marine on the company. And whether I was at home in Orange County when I was stationed on the West Coast, or whether I was on the East Coast and calling her or emailing her, after hours or whatever, a lot of the initial staying afloat is owed to her and her while she was going to school to get her master's and then her doctorate degree. So she was putting her time, energy in, and I credit that to her. So I had something when I got back, when it was all said and done, that I could transition and, I wasn't starting from scratch. We weren't making any money. We weren't highly successful, but we were staying afloat, and that's a credit to her and what she sacrificed so that we could work together to grow from there. And we eventually did. So kudos to her.
Yeah. Well, that is really special. I've never even heard that story. So that's new to me too, which is awesome. I was telling other people, they were like, oh, who do you have on the podcast today? And I was like, I have Jayson Yoss. I can't wait to learn more about him. And so I think that's really awesome. And just, how special to have that opportunity, and like you said, those people in your life. And I do want to ask, when we get, back to the olden days, I'm just curious. The other day there was somebody who was talking about on LinkedIn, and in all reality it's had to deal with the failure word. And they gave like 3 or 4 scenarios of like different thought processes when people fail. And I was like, I read them and none of them made sense to me. And I said, that's funny because I read your statement and these are the 4 things that came to my mind. And it was like, I'll learn from this, I'll grow from this. This isn't going to stop me, like things along those lines. I don't know exactly what I said. It was really good though. And so I got to credit that to my parents as well, of sitting there being like, they basically told me it's okay to fail up, and so I feel like I'm gathering that from you too. And so I'm just a little more curious of what your childhood was like with your relationship with your parents.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of jobs have you had in the past to really set you up for success? Like, tell me a little bit more about little Jayson.
Can we just segue a little bit into, hey, parents today need to let their kids fail. Like, it's okay for them to fail. They actually learn from it. It's super important to hear the word no, to see yourself fall, because the getting back up part is so important.
Yes.
I was a
Preach.
terrible little shit when I was a youngster, and I needed to get spanked. I needed to get told, like, no, you're not going to do that. I needed to have a job and be late and be fired. I needed to make mistakes in order to learn, like, hey, that's not the way you do it. I'm not a huge fan, but I think he's got a lot of insights. When you hear Jocko say failure, good. Obstacles, good. It sucks. But if the mentality is like, I won't be stopped, I'm going to be successful, then yeah, that's the right mentality to have. So when I was a youngster, yeah, I worked at all the terrible youngster places, like a Goldmine yogurt. It was a great experience. I worked as a dishwasher. I've done every hard job imagined. But more importantly, when I started this company, okay, I'm not some like hedge fund VC guy where I got $100 million to start the company. Shout out to everybody who's buying up mom and pop property management companies now. I remember one of my first move out walkthroughs. I managed a lot of student rentals. And so in the summer, everybody would move out. And so you'd have tons of move out walkthroughs in a 3 or 4 day period that you have to turn the property over and get it ready for the beginning of the next month so all the new students could come in. I'm in there, I'm in Arizona, 110-degree heat. The kids didn't have the utilities on for probably 6 months or 3 months for the summer. They left all their shit in there, including the stuff in the refrigerator, like food. I open the refrigerator door, there's fucking bugs everywhere, roaches, and I'm like, I grab the refrigerator and I'm slowly pulling it out so I can get it out of the unit with stuff all crawling all over me. And I remember later on somebody asking me, or somebody telling me, an intern, like, well, do you do this and do you do that? Like, I've worn every single hat. I have done every single dirty job out there in the company, and it's a good thing. I'm glad I wore every hat. I'm glad I did every dirty job, because it allowed me to know, like, okay, this is what you might have to do sometimes to get to that next level.
Oh my gosh.
And so when you talk about, oh, what'd you do younger? The bottom line is I've done a lot of failure in a lot of different fields to get me to where I was a little more comfortable in being successful in this field.
Usually I cry on this podcast because like it's so emotional because everybody's sharing. I've never cried because somebody's telling me about bugs and creepy crawlies crawling
my hair
over them.
all
Like,
over me. All over me. It was the most, it was one of the most memorable situations ingrained in my brain, because why I hate student rentals. 20-year-old lawyers who parents like, oh, my baby would never do any wrong, craziness. But most importantly, the way they would, because they're younger and they're not fully there yet. The way they would leave properties, that was a typical occurrence. Like, oh yeah, I don't have the utilities on. Yeah, it's 100+ degrees. Did I leave food in the fridge? Like, oops. That was regular. So that was burned in my mind as terrible.
That is awful. Again, I said earlier, the stories I hear from you guys, I would not be able to do that. Like, just truly. And I sit there and believe that I could.
Right there. You would have been right there going like, let's go, Jayson. I'm going to tie my hair back. You push, I'll pull, out it goes. Let's go to the next one.
Jayson,
it had to be done.
I am gagging if my husband takes something out of the fridge and it like sits out on the counter for a little bit and warms up and I have to take it out and put it in the dishwasher. I am
Where's Brady? I don't believe this at all. Come on now. I don't believe this at all.
We'll do a separate segment. I will record it for you. Anyways, he and his brother get such a big kick. Like we'll be out, hunting camp or whatever. They'll start talking about spam, and they think it's hilarious because just the thought, if I allow my brain to actually think about spam and what that's like I will literally start gagging. And so they like to get really detailed with their spam, like a food that they apparently have ate in the past. And I'm like, oh, that's so gross. I can't do it. Can't do it. But you're right. If I absolutely had to and there was no one else, I would roll up my sleeves. But I don't want to. That's what I'm saying. Kudos to you guys.
But every successful entrepreneur, every successful person that I've come in contact, my mentors, they have that story. They have that, like, I did this. And so.
Well, and that leads me to, I'm going to cut you off because I've been wanting to ask this. Like, what was one of those stories? I know you don't have to go through all the details, but what was one of those stories before you got into property management that really has stuck with you and really made a difference into who you are and how you run business today?
Again, I want to go back to one of my first mentors, Valerie Van de Zilver. She is still in the real brokerage sphere, and she goes and gives talks on their circuit. She's amazing. I still have techniques and practices I learned from her today. And I watched that woman work as hard as anybody would work. And then her husband come in after hours, and they would, after his job at a PIMCO, world famous bond trading organization, where he was basically a rocket scientist over there trading bonds, and they would work together. Like, that kind of dedication to a small business, it laid the groundwork to go okay, that's how you do it. And there wasn't anything that she wouldn't do with her business. If she had to be there on Saturday, she would be there. And what did she ask of us? Hey, just follow what we're doing and do it. And in the beginning, she started me at the bottom on things. Like, for example, she advertised in a magazine, and back then you would put the homes in the magazine and you would call the 800 number and, hit an extension for the home you liked. Now, everybody who called about a home and left a message, she would take that call. Everybody who didn't leave a message, she's like, Jayson, call them back, see if you can earn their business. I was like, okay. And so there were tons of hangups.
Yeah.
Basically, I was cold calling.
Right.
And if I got the lead, if I got him in the office, then she would come in and she would help me navigate how to build that together and get a successful closing. But she let me go out and make those calls and fail probably 90% of the time and get those 10%, closings that come in the office. And that was great. And I respect her for that. And I respect the way she showed me what hard work and dedication starts to get a business running. And I remember the one time she had said she'd had a cocktail and she was being open. She's like, hey, sometimes I got to pull money out of my own pocket to make payroll. And I was like, wow. Now, fast forward 20 years later, okay, that woman is just tough as nails, and I respect everything that she was doing back then, and I learned a lot from her. And so that's just an example of, before I got into my own business, property manager, how I was able to learn from others. And that's where you got to learn. You're either learning on your own mistakes or you're watching someone else and hopefully not repeating those same mistakes.
Right. Well, and I mean, just coming from a sales perspective, those cold calls, they're the ones that are going to make you sweat. They're the ones that are going to make you all shaky and nervous.
Got one more for you.
Oh, okay. Do tell.
I worked at a cold calling agency when I was the summer going in my senior year. I'd never done this before. And it was a girl that I thought I was in love with at the time. And she was like, hey, I found a job in the paper and all of us are going to go. So 5 of us got in a car and went to this place at 7 a.m. It was 30 minutes from our house. And it was like, hey, sit down, read the script. You got to book so many appointments. And we all did pretty good. But in our class of 10 people on that first day, half of them got dismissed because they couldn't book anything. So we're there the first week. All we're doing is dialing paper leads and making calls. Well, I was there with friends, of course, and we were fucking around. And I made the mistake of somebody gave me a really bad rejection. And I called that person every single day for 3 weeks. And then one Friday, my boss was like, hey, come in here. And he pulls me into the office with the other boss. I mean, this is boiler room type. We're in some cubicle in some factory office. And they're play me a recording of me on the phone talking to, leaving messages on this person's answer machine. Like, are you calling every single day? Do you know that this is harassment? They're like, yes. Okay, you're fired. Bye. I was like,
What?
and I was like, walked out of the building at noon, and I didn't drive to the office that day. So I sat on the curb for like 4 hours. So all my friends came out and they're like, what'd you do? And I'm like, I guess I called one too many times, man. Can't be doing that stuff. Got in the car, head of shame. And like that was the first time I got fired. I was like, oops.
Oh my God.
So
I
cold
did
calling,
not.
I learned my lesson there. Like, take rejection with like, no problem, on to the next one.
My gosh, I was not expecting that. So like, honestly, what came into my mind was that guy actually showed up and then was all like, this guy is so tenacious that sure, now I'm going to work with you, but I have to like shake his hand in person.
She called and said that I was harassing her. And
Oh
I
my
left a
goodness.
message every day like, hey, it's me again. And, just wanted to tell you about our condo product. I know I left you a message yesterday. I'm sure you're getting these, but I'm really excited that I think you'll benefit from that. Shit like
Yeah.
that. Like, I
Yeah.
wasn't being weirdo. I was just like, oh, you're going to reject me. I'm going to call you every single day. And I would call like twice a day, like morning and afternoon. And they were just like, I'm a young kid. Like, I'm going to get her to say yes. And they're like, what are you doing, you moron?
That is
In
so
hindsight, I'm like, yeah, can't do that.
well, so I was watching I think it was a TikTok the other day about somebody was doing cold calling. They were recording that, and I felt it in my soul whenever he ended up getting off the call, and he's like, I knew I took the conversation in the wrong direction. He's like, but I got it back to this point, and I'm all like, it is such a like touch and go game, and you are sitting there. It's like, I know, and then you try not to let yourself be thrown off, right? Because you're like,
Right.
I know I just said the wrong thing. How do I reel back from this? So the cold calling, it's one of those things where, like I said, it makes your palms sweat. You're kind of shaking a little in your boots. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, like that didn't work. Let me try this. And then you just keep building that momentum of now I know the secret sauce of what is going to get this sold.
It's a
And
mental game, don't you think?
yeah,
I mean, you have to get in the right mindset. And look, if you do, like a great friend of mine, Ashley Chapman, is the queen of the cold call, and she'll do 100 calls a day. And if I do 100 calls a day, I can't do all cold. Like, I have to
yeah,
mix it up because you're going to get a lot of rejection. Like, you're going to get every 10 calls, you're going to get, 6 people not pick up. And of the 4 that pick up, one's going to be interested, one's going to be like, yeah, whatever. And 2 are going to be like, the quick hangups are like, leave me alone. So there's a lot of rejection, and that takes a mental toll. And so,
yeah,
I'll do, 20, and then I'll 30 maybe, and then I'll break into like, let me do warm calls. Like, hey, bud, it's me again. Great talking to you. Like, how's that, how's the last prospect doing? Or somebody I know, so I can get some
right.
uplift, get some positivity, and then back into the like, okay, maybe I'll drop down into lukewarm. Like, hey, we spoke last week, and then back into like, all right, let me wrap it up with some cold. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I'm everybody's cheerleader. They always call me when they need a little boost. They're like,
You're
hey,
so
Dre, you
positive.
got
That's
5 minutes?
You're so positive. That's why you are a bright spot in a hurricane.
Can be. I do try to be. I can show up for people in that sense. But it is funny. I feel like even Brady and I kind of flipped the switch on each other. Whenever I came into the relationship, I was like the negative Nancy
No
and
way.
always the
Doubt
complete.
that.
Oh,
Totally
it
doubt that.
is
Never,
true.
never.
You can
I don't
call
agree.
him
I'm
up.
gonna, I'm gonna, I'm gonna again, Brady. Where are you on this one? 100%.
He's
I don't believe
sleeping.
that. I don't believe that you've ever been negative Nancy ever.
Oh my gosh, I have. I'm telling you, it's very real. I need to do it before you knew me podcast on
Fact check
myself.
that one. Fact check that one.
But so he was the positive Polly, and then it's like wherever we ended up switching, and I'm the positive Polly now to a fault to where my mom, she gets so annoyed with me in the best way possible because she'll be in this negative state and I'll be like, okay, but like, let's think about all the wonderful things that we have, and she's like, you're so annoying.
There we go.
I
Perfect
know.
reaction. Perfect reaction.
It is. And she eventually kind of lets her guard down and she kind of comes out of it. And so
You
she
work it
said,
out of her. You work it
yes,
out of her.
she said that she's like, if I ever have a problem with anybody, she's like, I'm just going to send him to Drea's house. It's either going to be punishment or therapy. But
Yes.
when
Yes.
you're talking about these mentors and everything and building your business and even the cold calls and like learning from people, like was it just out of natural fate? Like, how did you find these people to build into your support network? How did you find the right people to have around you? Like, where did that all come into play?
Well, I think that definitely good luck is always going to play a part in it. But the first intern I ever had in my company, at got him from the University of Arizona. We found a way to get people that we didn't have to pay for. Is a buddy of mine who was the younger brother of my bestie at the time. Okay, in college, it was about
Okay.
2004. He's going to the U of A. He was in the regional development major, so we were able to get him like 3 credits to intern. And fast forward, he graduates, he goes to work for Enterprise, he's a regional manager, and then 10 years later, he shows up back in San Diego. He's looking like white Jesus with this full on beard and like hippie beard and like flannel clothes. He's like, hey man, like I'm looking for a job. And I'm like, brother, I love you, but like I don't know what I got here. So
Yeah.
I give him at the lowest entry level job. And a year later, sales position opens up and he's like, hey man, he comes to my office like, I want that job. I'm like, bro, like this is, I don't know that there's a lot of pressure on you. This is our lifeblood of our business is getting new clients. And like, I'm a tough boss to work for and I love you. And like, you're the little brother of my best friend, best man at my wedding. Like, I don't know. I don't want to put that pressure. It's like, no, man, I can do it. All right. So he crushes it. And then
Mm.
like 5 years later, the director of operations that I had, basically the VP of the company who had been with me for 5 years, she's like, hey, I've had enough. I'm moving on. And he comes in my office again. He's like, hey man, I could do that job. I could be the director of operations. I'm like, you've never done any operations, property management work in our company ever. You've always just been sales. Like, nah, man, I could do that one. And so I was like, okay, man. Like, so sure enough, he takes that job and he crushes it, of course. And, 10 years of, working together. And
I was going to
we
say,
are,
is this who I think it is?
we are a better company because we have the teddy bears.
Oh my
When
gosh. I
when you
love
talk
that.
about people and luck and how you get sometimes it could be just one person.
Hmm.
And in our case, we have been successful, but we're uber successful because we do have the teddy bear on board. And the teddy bear, he pushed for every job. And every time I was like, I don't know, you can do it. He's like, I can do it. And he did. So
I love
Roy
that.
True, everybody knows it's like the yin to my yang. And that's a big part about it. Like I'm one way and he's another way. And
Hmm.
it makes our company grow. He's a phenomenal integrator and director of operations. He has that property management team running excellent. The fact that he's been in different roles in the company allows him to be able to speak to and understand the vision of where we're going and
Hmm.
what needs to happen to get there. So that's a huge part of why we're successful. And it doesn't have to be a ton of people. It can be just one person.
I love that so much. And it's even cooler because I know you and I know Roy. And whenever you meet Jayson and Roy in the same place, you feel that same type of energy that he's talking about. So like Jason's like, let's go, let's do this. And Roy's like, hi, how are you? And so that's very special. I expected you to say more, but you're right. All it takes is just one person.
I've been fortunate. Like I've had some great people at our company, and I don't want to ever leave anybody, but there are people who have been here 3, 4, 5 years that are absolutely game changers, and you need those people. I notice when I look at employees we've had over the last 20 years, there are a handful of people who stand out that were here for a long time, and maybe they've departed, but left a positive impact or are
Hmm.
still here and are continuing to grow as we grow, not just doors, okay, but in our operational skill, our efficiency, our dollars. I mean, we're making more money now than we ever had. And it's not because we have tons more clients than we ever had. It's because we're better at what we do. Our clients are better than we've ever had. Our processes are better and we have tons more buy-in. And again, if you're going to scale business, you're going to do well. These are important things.
Hmm.
This isn't $100 million business. Okay. These are $5 to $10 million companies at the apex of the property management industry right now. And so that's mom and pop. But you still need to have buy-in. You still need to have complementary pieces to be successful. And I'm fortunate to have one key complementary piece and then several other along the way, and including now players on the team that are just they can hit doubles, they can hit singles, they can take a walk, they can steal a base, they can do all the pieces like we talked about before. They'll pull out that refrigerator that has cockroaches on it, even if it's not their job, and just get it done. I love that. And that's the secret sauce right there.
Yeah.
Culture.
Yeah. Yeah. Culture. And then as you're sitting there talking, like I've heard all about these mentors that you've had, but there is no doubt that you have also been a mentor to others, and especially even the people that are coming through the company itself. And so I know that you guys, both you and Roy, I mean, your culture there is to really build up personal development as well as a career development. And that's really special too.
Here's a perfect example. I have a property manager and agent that was with me in the beginning when we launched the San Diego office. San Diego was
Mhm.
the last office that we opened. We had Tucson, then we had Phoenix, and we had Vegas, then we opened San Diego. And this gal was amazing. She was great. And I was super happy to watch her grow and develop. And then one day, after I think it was a year and a half or 2 years, she's like, hey, my family and I were moving to Bend, Oregon. Well, that woman in Bend, Oregon, not only is she a top producer, not only is she crushing it, not only did she own her own property management business, but she is such a sweetheart that every once in a while she'll actually, post and give me some credit, which I'm like, hey, I didn't do anything. I just happened to be the one around as you were on your way up. But to see other players like
Mhm.
that crush it and do their own thing, and then probably have a host of their own mentors and putting on their own teaching and being on their own podcast and things like that. That is such a wonderful thing to see. But I don't, that's just an example, but because not too long ago she posted me, but I don't, it's tough to think about like I'm actually making a difference. I just like, hey, I was happy to work with that person and help them grow. But like, don't look to me. I don't think I did anything. But when they give you that kudos, it's like, I appreciate that, even though I don't think
Mhm.
I had the same impact that they think.
I mean, that's that's very kind of you to be humble. I
Well, don't you
will
think?
tell you that even not,
Don't you think that though? Don't you think like when you're being genuine and
yeah,
you're
oh, for
rolling up
sure.
your sleeves and working with your partners, your team members, even subordinates, like if you're being genuine and you're actually providing real value, rarely are
Mhm.
you like, okay, well, let me draw out how I provide you real value. You're just doing it.
Right.
And so later on, when they're like, hey, you are a tough fucking boss, but I learned a lot and boom. And here's an
Mhm.
example. When I came home from Afghanistan, Drea, I thought those kids hated me. I thought my Marines were like, that fucking asshole. However, we had a rough deployment. Our
Yeah.
battalion had a rough deployment. But I went back to our reunion, and you know what? Those Marines were so good to me, and their wives and loved ones had so many good stories to roast me about, which of course every Marine officer needs to get roasted. But the nice things they had to say, like, hey, you were tough, but we got things done. We were super successful as a
Mhm.
platoon out there in Afghanistan. And I remember thinking like I didn't know it at the time, and I felt very lonely as a leader having to make decisions that affect other people, even
Sure.
sometimes decisions that I didn't want to do or I had to be hard in certain circumstances, but the outcome. And then later on somebody coming back and go like, hey, I really appreciate how you did it. I really appreciate what we were able to accomplish as a team. I felt very blessed by that, and I can't thank those men enough, and I'm so glad and so thankful that they're all doing so well.
That's amazing. No, I 100% agree with you when you're just a genuine person and you're always just looking out for the best of other people and trying to do your best, because let's face it, like we try to do our best. Like most of us, but when you're looking to do your best, you naturally make this impact in other people. And that's really special when you do get the unsolicited accolades from it. And that actually means more than anything.
It
And
does. It does.
and I mean, I think, well, you know, just as well as I know, I mean, but for everybody who doesn't know us, it is so pivotal to me. And I know that you have the same values, is like, just how am I going to be able to help you? Like,
Right.
how can I help you? It could be a stranger on the street. Maybe I'm just the random person they run into that they have to get something off their chest, and that was my purpose. So it's always a matter of like, we're living day by day, but it's like we're open to whatever opportunities come our way, whoever needs us. Like, we're not like sitting there being like, I'm too good for you, don't talk to me.
Yeah, and our industry has a lot of egos, and our industry adjacent realtors have a lot of egos, and you're 100% right. Again, I got to tell you, like you are the most positive, helpful person I know. There isn't a time around where you're like, hey, let me introduce you to so and so, or hey, let me help with this. And that is infectious, Dre. It rubs off on others. And so, look, I've been blessed enough to be walking around with blinders. I love to help others, even when they're like, okay, I got this, thank you. But
Right.
I'm also always working on my own stuff. I make mistakes all the time. I got plenty of shortcomings, and it's the fact that I'm able to be surrounded by people that are the yin to my yang or are a little bit better or that I can lean on to look up. That's important because it helps the journey. I mean, you need to lean on others on your journey. What is that saying? Like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, or something like that. Like that's super important. And it takes a village sometimes. And if you're a selfish son of a bitch, like, it's going to be a lot harder than if you're that person who's always like, how can I add value? How can I help? It comes back in tenfold. And that's the way you should work.
Mm-hmm.
You're not perfect, regardless of you make mistakes or not. Put yourself out there to try to be successful, to try to add value, to try to help others. It's a winning philosophy.
Yeah. And I mean, we weren't put on this earth to live alone. There's a reason why we're all here. It takes a community. And when you build up that right community, like having Jayson in my life of sitting there telling me like, Drea, you're awesome because you're so sweet and that means the world to me.
Yeah, you are.
Unsolicited, by the way. I didn't force him to say that to be able to be on the podcast. But
The gun's over there. Don't worry about that. I'm reading from the note. I'm reading. Okay, just to interject on that, have you seen the TikTok of like the guy like reading the message like, okay, everybody, so now I'm off the market. Me and Jessica are gonna be together forever, and then you hear her in the background go, no, dummy, say it this way. It's like, yes, that's not happening here, but I understand when people feel that way, especially.
that is hilarious.
Look up that TikTok. Jayson and Jessica, seriously, it's great.
Oh, that's awesome. No, I think I have seen one of them, and I'm sure there's so many renditions about it now. I would never be able to get Brady to do those TikToks with me, but they would be funny. I'm all for that. I could have built this like couple TikTok, but look, I'm married an introvert.
Yeah, you're definitely not an introvert. So yeah, that's again yin to yang. It is good to partner with people who aren't exactly the same as you as well. It helps you go farther.
It's true. It's true. Where I build him up, he's able to take me down a little. And where he builds me up, I'm able to take him down a little. That's why they say opposites attract when you find the right opposite. But when you talk about these relationships and really just like the mentorship and the core values, and as I'm seeing that right behind your head there, it's like stuck and ingrained in my head now. I mean, there's nothing like maintaining faith and our values while we pursue success. I mean, at the end of the day, and that success is accessible to everyone that's willing to work for it. And I would say that I can, I sit there and I talk about my parents and how I tribute a lot of that mentality from them. I mean, I joke around all the time saying I got all the good traits from my mom and I got all the good traits from my dad. This is why I'm the favorite. But in all reality, having those mindset, cores, values, I'm just going to repeat that, of instilled into me when I was a kid really allowed me to make sure that I am connecting with the right people and it's not one-sided, that I am opening up, being able to be that connection for somebody else. And I legitimately would not be where I am today without connections and people being willing to do that. And so you're always paying it forward. And as long as you're always looking at that versus what do I gain from this? For me, that's always been my goal, is like, what can I do to pay it forward? Because so many people have helped me. And I'll never forget the day that when I did get into the property management space, and this was also in Vegas, by the way.
Really?
Yes. Vegas is very, it's got a lot of like sentimental value, even though I hate that city. But I was working for my brother at the time. Many people know Ray, that if you're in the property management space, and we were going to a broker owner conference in Vegas, if I'm not mistaken. And it was like super long. And it might have been nationals. It was like the long one. And so you for whatever reason always have this idea that you need to get there earlier than what you actually do. And so there's a lot of that. So Ray sent me, since I was a salesperson at the time, he sent me early, and turns out we had like 2 days to kill. It was like, what do I do? I'm new.
A NARPM week-long conference and you're there on Tuesday. You're like, nobody's even here yet.
I
Nothing kicks
know.
off
It's
till
like,
Thursday. What are you doing?
what am I supposed to do? Yeah, we had no idea why or how we got there, but it happens all the time. You have to like be conscientious of it. But Jennifer Stoops was a connection of Ray's because they were working together with us at Property Mill. And so he said, oh, hey, you're there. Like, would you mind babysitting my sister? And so she's like, oh, yeah. And oh my gosh.
Quality introduction from Ray right there. Like her, babysitter.
Yeah,
make
yeah, that is true. So she, I mean, literally just took me under her wing and just connected me with everyone. I mean, you talk about connector. Jennifer Stoops knows everybody. And so she's just like, oh, do you know Drea? Oh, do you know Drea? And I will never take that for granted. I will never forget it. And I'm always trying to pay that forward. So when you sit there and give me the accolade that I'm always trying to connect other people with other people, it's like I'm doing something right in this world, right?
Yeah. The people in our industry, just a lot of great people, a lot of great connectors too. I was fortunate enough to connect with Danny and Jordan over at whatever they had going on at the time. I think they were both doing Profit Coach. I think they were both doing it at the time. I maybe had met Jordan through Lead Simba, but I just want to use them as an example.
Yeah.
Okay, like that everybody in our industry knows them, and my philosophy before I met them, and so this is like 2000, and I met them early 2015, and then I became maybe a Profit Coach client later on 2019. But I met them early, and my philosophy was I'm going to be closed off. Like, you're all my competition. Why would I go to NARPM? Why would I go to broker owner? Like, you're trying to compete for the clients I want. You're going to take what I do, my processes, you're going to steal them and you're going to use them from your own. You're going to be better for me. Like, that was the mindset. Okay. I met them. I started working with them, and slowly they rubbed off on me to where my mindset changed. And Danny, Jordan, polar opposite people, like 100%. Okay. But the mindset was still the same. Like, we're in it together. We givers gain. We're going to earn more by putting ourselves out there and being transparent and willing to network and willing to learn and willing to share. And that's the truth. And I can't thank them enough for helping pave that way. And nowadays, I don't see them as much as I used to, but I also, when I do see them, I'm always very thankful for getting me going, getting on that networking path. And they're not the only ones. There are tons of people like that in our industry, okay, that are connectors that we have met. They could be in Washington, D.C. They could be in Gillette, Wyoming. They could be anywhere throughout the United States, but we've met at a conference or being in this industry, and we've been able to connect, and they have connected me with other people. And that mindset has led to more abundance. An abundance mindset is a winner versus it's me against the world, close off. I think that's important, but I don't think as a long-term strategy, that's the right one. So when we talk about networking, that's my observation of why I think it's better to focus your mindset to being open and being a giver than to be like, hey, I'm going to be closed off. I'm going to do it all.
For sure. And
although I need babysitting sometimes. So if I was in Vegas and needed babysitting, I'd appreciate if one of them would be like, Jayson, that person's going to babysit you. I'm like, yep. Sure.
I'm here for it. Well, I mean, and I will say too, because obviously I grew up in this space in the vendor world. And so not as a property manager myself, though I feel like I'm definitely one of the cool kids these days as property management goes, because I feel like I know so much, but I know I don't know half of it. The vendors in the space, I mean, I was talking to somebody the other day and they were, well, maybe I'll go into sales. And I said, you should find out how often you're going to have to be gone, because my gosh, us vendors, it was like 2 to 3 times a month if you were the only salesperson. And that's tough. That's rough.
Conference. You guys are on the road so much, traveling all across the country. We got a new NARPM conference in like Georgia. Hey, we're going to be in Arizona at Broker Owner next week. I'm like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah. And it really, like, you really develop into this family type mentality because you're on the road with each other all the time. What
Yeah.
do you need? What can I do for you? Like, this is tough on all of us. Like, we're all sleep deprived because property managers like to party and they party harder than college kids. So it's like, what, like, you just
Conference
have,
life.
yeah, you have those people
Conference
to
life.
really lean in on. And the other really nice part about that is that as you do have these people who are always giving, like everybody's always giving, right? The nice part about that is when we were at our booths, if I'm saying that right, that's such a weird word to say.
Booth.
Booths. When we were sitting there selling at our booth, there we go, then oftentimes you have these conversations with people that they might not be looking or needing what you have, but it's like, oh my gosh, you need to talk to so and so. Like,
Right.
literally, let me walk you over to their
Yeah.
booth. And I mean, that was always, I mean, it's just this web of connections. And when you have that mindset of like, how can I help you versus, no, let me try to sell you on what I
Yeah.
have.
Sorry, can't help you. Try down the hall. Okay.
I know. So it really makes a huge difference when it comes to the matter of success because like I said, I wouldn't be here today without people connecting me. I wouldn't be here
Yeah.
today without people loving me the way that they love me, and just willing to help. And they're like, what do you need, Drea? Half the time I feel like most people are like, oh great, it's Drea. What are we gonna get ourselves into now? How am I supposed to? But I do full-heartedly believe that connections are everything, which is, I don't think I told you this, but I'm starting another company here in town to connect Gillette people. And since
Gillette
I'm
people.
not
This.
Gillette
First of all,
people,
people buy from people they like.
they
People do
do,
business with people they like.
and
Right?
they refer people that they like.
That's right. Building a bond is one of the most important things in the sales process or the client process together. Clients
Yes.
are habitual, they're not loyal, but they will buy from you if they like you. They will stay with you if they feel like you're getting a fair shake, you're something they want to interact with. So that's
Mhm.
why that's important. Doesn't
Well,
solve every problem, but it's important to have a rapport with somebody.
and tell me a little bit more about your experience as far as maintaining relationships. Maybe it comes from clients, maybe it goes to real estate agents, maybe it's on the personal side of life to where you got mentors, being the mentoree.
Yeah.
How do you go about maintaining all of those relationships? Because you're really good at it.
Well, first and foremost, when it comes to clients, I have the teddy bear because he's so much better at
He is
working with people.
amazing. Where is Roy?
When they get upset, the teddy bear can calm anybody down. He can make them feel heard. And look, even me as a client, me as a customer, a lot of times I want to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
Shut up and let me just get it out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then he's able to kind of take that information, turn around and say like, okay, so what I'm hearing you say is X, Y, and Z. Is that right? Reaffirming what my pain points are or client pain points are. And then like, okay, what are the actions I can do? What are the ones like I don't know that I can do? All right. And so he's so good at that. Where I feel like in certain areas I can be excellent at that, but other areas I'll be too emotional, too passionate to hear someone out, to hear their pain. On the sales side, when it comes with prospects, I am able to work with my sales team very much about building rapport so that we can listen to them and ask questions and find their pain because we do have solutions for those problems. And I think that's super important. And lastly, with my realtor partners, and we have a huge network of realtor partners, since we don't do sales as a company, I think that's our big niche that we're able to earn so much realtor business because getting them to trust that I will never not only steal a client, but I'm always here to make them win. They make a
Mm-hmm.
ton of money when they sell a property and they don't eat at all if they don't. So taking
Right.
care of their clients, helping set them up for success is so much more important for them than it is for us. We don't make as much money per client. So making sure they're taken care of sets that trust level. So they're like, okay, Jayson, Golden West, they hear what my pains are. They understand what the value they bring to the table. And that's why we've been so successful for whatever they need. Being able to bounce a landlord tenant question off us, being accessible to get some rental comps, having a system that allows us to hand them back a property. And most of the time, I would say, I think it's 28% in 2024 when we handed back a property to them to sell. The tenant purchased that property and they got to double end. Another
Mm-hmm.
company would either be trying to do that sale or trying to double end it, or at least getting the tenant so they get commission. And then so building that trust, building that rapport, giving hard actual metrics to a partner allows that relationship to continue to flourish. And like any relationship, once it gets more and more down the line over time, the trust gets stronger, builds more, and they feel more comfortable, not
Mm-hmm.
just on a business level, but on a personal level. Like, hey, I got my own property going on. What should I do here? Or I got this situation with family. What should I do here? Or, hey, like, I really want to sell this property, but I just don't think they're in the right space. So, can I have you guys manage it for a little bit? And then, like, at the end of the lease, I'd love to see if maybe it's the right time to actually put it back on the market for sale. Those are the lasting relationships and wins that have allowed us to be successful. And when people ask me about what are you doing for sales and how you generate more leads, and I'll tell them like, oh, we partner with realtors. I get a lot of like, oh yeah, realtors, and it's like, okay, like do it your way. I don't know what I'm doing. We only got in one office alone 94 referrals, and we closed 48% of them. So it's like,
Wow.
right, okay, don't listen to us. But that's from a relationship standpoint, client, customer, sales prospect, and then a referral partner. Those are the way it goes, but know your strengths and weaknesses. If you are the jump up and down, I'm a motherfucker, like get somebody who isn't, so that they can get yourself a teddy bear so they can be able to listen and help solve problems and beat pains. Up
Yeah.
on the core values at the top or whatever, like our two, commitment to communication. Okay, because I think in any relationship, being able to properly and effectively communicate is super important. It's the one thing we as people control. The
Yeah.
world could be falling apart, but I control how quickly I get back to you, how I communicate to you. If I'm like blow you off, or if I'm rude, or if I'm very empathetic and able to connect on a level. And two, solve problems. Like that's my whole job. Okay, it isn't to lease the property, it isn't to post the notices, it isn't to collect rent. It's to solve management problems, to solve landlord tenant problems. That's my whole job. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking for a professional because you don't have either the knowledge or the time or energy to handle this. And you want someone who's going to take care of it and solve your problems. And those are the two things. If that's your mindset, whether you're growing your business, whether you're trying to earn sales, whether you're in property manager, but communicate effectively and solve problems, you will have success.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that so much. And this whole time I'm like, wow, I never realized you were such an empath before. Like I knew you really cared about people. I know that deep down in your soul, you're like, I care. I'm all like, wow, I never realized he was so empathetic. I
I'm
love it.
just terrible at. I still have that Marine mentality, that jump up and down mentality. It's hard to slow down sometimes.
Yeah.
So while I work on that, while I work on me, while I try to be a better leader, a better, client relationship, salesperson, whatever, human being, I also know like, hey, I've got a teddy bear that I work with who he can handle a lot of things that I am not good at, and
Yeah.
vice versa. And so they have that adage, like, I mean, there's a reason the man-made tools and fire, because he can't break everything with his hands and he can't burn everything with his, with his friction. So
Mm-hmm.
use what you got,
Absolutely.
continue to get better, but use what you got.
Well, and out of the 20 years that you've been running this business and you've opened up two more businesses in that, and then I
Yeah.
know you have more businesses on the side.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. The main business though, let's just get right to it, Drea.
Okay.
I opened something up in Central America, a bakery called Flan Del Mar. Now I'm working on my Spanish. Okay. You know,
I know
but I love
because
the culture.
the other day I was like, I gotta clean my house, and I don't know why you and I were connected at the point, and I was like, do you got any good Spotify recommendations?
Oh
He
yeah, yeah,
sends me
yeah.
the Spanish music, and I was like, all right. I literally was folding
Yes.
clothes to Spanish music.
Yes, yes, absolutely, without a doubt. And that just from a cultural standpoint, like I just fell in love with the culture when I went and visited, fell in love with the people. I love the surf. And when I was asking around, a friend of mine owns a resort there, a former Marine guy, and he's like, hey, town could usually really use some maybe like bakery or fresh bread. And so there it was, Flan Del Mar was born. Got the Instagram, got the website, working on my temporary residency, incorporated in
Mm.
Nicaragua, and building it up. Look, but the aim of the business, because what do I know about baking? Like, you should see my bakery skills. But the aim of the business is always like, if you don't like your cookie, I'll make you another one. If you don't
Mm.
like your coffee, I'll bring you another one. Like, I want you to be happy and smile, and as well as, of course, I don't want to lose money, but I am running a business, but I want it to be where like I can make you happy. Where in a property management business, like sometimes there's nothing I can do. Like, you didn't
Sure.
pay your rent, I got to evict you. Like, I'm sorry, I feel for you, but I can't. Like, here's $2,000 on my pocket. Like, that's not going to work every time. That's not going to be a sustainable model. Where if you don't like your
Right.
cookie, I'll make you another one. If you don't like your brownie, I'll go in the back. If your coffee isn't warm enough, let me brew you another pot. I want you to leave with a smile. I want you to be happy. Flan Del Mar.
Yes. And at the end of the day, you're allowing them to like leave with a story too, right? Like it's just gonna, I'm all about people's stories. That's why we're here today. This is why we're getting to know Jayson before we even knew him. And I think that alone, when you look at that into a business model in that sense, like that's something really special that not everybody gets to offer because of like what you just said. Now, don't get me wrong, from what sounds like you won't go make that cookie, but you'll get somebody else to make that cookie, right?
Look, and if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that I have triplets, right? So they're just turned 8, and I'm always trying to cook for them. I mean,
Oh,
I didn't cook growing up, I didn't cook before, but I'm learning to cook, and I actually really enjoy it. And so, like,
good.
I'm always baking stuff for them. So, am I like pretty basic at the moment? Sure. Am I like super professional? Like, I wouldn't go that far, but if I make you a cookie that isn't any good, I'll go back and make you another one. So, but there are people that are much better than me, my partners down there, that are much better in the kitchen or in the back than I am. And so
Mhm.
I'd rather have them, make you something that's delicious than maybe me be the point of the primary person on that.
Hey, you know what? I would be okay if I went down there to visit. If you were making the cookie, I would love it because it was made with love. As
Donuts,
long as,
cookies, churros, you
as long
name
as
it,
you didn't mix
tortas.
this, as long as you didn't mix up the salt and sugar, like
Sugar is love. Okay,
sugar
bad
is
for you, of
love.
course, but sugar is love. And the better it tastes, the more sugar it has on it, the more the more you love.
It's true. It's true. So out of all of this, Jayson, and out of the number of experiences that you've had, I mean, from personal, the military, the property management, real estate, connections, network, bakery, what's something that you can leave us with as far as words of wisdom goes from what you've learned all these years?
Tell you this. I've made a lot of mistakes, lots of failures, and I've always been able to, after you go through that pain of failure, shake it off, get back up and get back after it. If you want it, if you truly want it, then you can do those things. And that's for me, those are rules to live by. Now, there are other things out there that I think are important, and we could be on 2 podcasts going through them. But if I had a couple nuggets, I would have to just say, look, family is important. You know, a lot of times it's your why. For me, it's my why. I have some amazing children, and it makes me want to just. It builds a fire for doing more things. It keeps me younger too. Again, we're gonna go snowboarding, or they're skiing this weekend, and I'm super excited to get them on the mountain. It's not their first time. They're getting really, really good, and I'm just so excited to get them up there and watch them build confidence as they get better and go on little jumps and go on their own, go on the lift on their own. I watch them, like, we just started bike riding, and now all the training wheels are off, and now we can all bike together. Like, there's so much joy that comes from family
Mm.
that it does transition into, like, hey, when stuff is hard, when money's tight, it helps breathe fire into that why, so you can dust yourself off, you can get yourself out of bed, you can work your way at any situation. And
Mhm.
I think the last thing is faith. And I know that's not a popular thing, but you got to have faith in something. And it doesn't matter what it is for you, but you got to have some higher power faith to help guide you. It doesn't mean you're perfect, and I hate the holier than thou type of people out there, but it is important to have that guide path, because now you know where you're going. And
Mhm.
then with the family, you got your why. And with the mentality of like, hey, obstacles are okay, failure's okay, as long as you learn your lesson, brush yourself up, and keep going. I think those 3 together is a decent recipe for success. I think the biggest problem is that youth is wasted on the young, and we don't learn these lessons until a little bit later on. If I knew this shit when I was 18, 21, 25, I'd probably be a lot farther in the game. The flip side is,
Mm.
maybe I needed that time to learn those lessons. So where I'm at now, close to the 4th floor, I can be more successful.
That's so valid. I often wonder why I had to go through specific things in life to get to where I am because I'm like, I could have done without that. I could have done without that, you know?
I know that
But
one.
yeah, I mean, at the same token, I don't believe I would have been ready for today
Yeah.
without it. So, I mean, but I guess at the end of the day, you sit there and you wonder, you can sit there and sulk in your sorrows about it, or you can like make something of it. You can plant the flower, right? And now this flower is blooming and it's
Right.
beautiful, even though it was just this ugly seed to begin with.
How you respond to adversity, right, Dre? Like that's that saying you hear, like how you respond to adversity. It says a
Mm-hmm.
lot about how you can respond to how successful you are, and I think there's a huge point in that you
Yeah.
bring.
Well, and you can only control so many things too, which you've also brought up as well. And the things that you can't control, like you're saying, you got to make the most out of it. And
What's
my,
it? What would you tell somebody then? What would you tell young Drea? What would you tell 22-year-old, third college but done Drea and volleyball superstar Drea as she's embarking on? What would you go back and tell her if you're like, here's 3 bullet points, brain them, tattoo them on your arm. This is what you need to do. What would it be? Because we just talked about a good philosophy, but like
yeah.
that's not necessarily like young people want a multiple choice. Is it A? Is it B? Is it C? Like, what would
Well,
you tell them?
I told you to not make this all about me, but you can't help to talk about other people like Teddy Bear
Young Jason.
Roy.
Young Roy? So tell
Yeah.
young Roy what to do?
Right. No, I can now, I mean, the first and foremost thing ever is for me is like really dive into the faith in God. And that for the past 2 years has been the most pivotal shift I have ever experienced in my life. And I can tell you that I grew up in the church. I can tell you I accepted Christ when I was 14. I can tell you that I lived a decent life. I was a good human. But it's like I
I was a good boy.
wasn't, yeah, like
Good
it
human.
was,
Yeah, I feel you.
yeah. And it wasn't until I really, really actually started to like live that life in faith versus
Yeah,
just living life. There
right.
is a difference. And so if I could tell myself to actually do back in my 20s what I just did 2, maybe 3 years ago now, I would be like, do that first because everything that comes from that, everything that follows from that, it's all stemming from this one core, and that's truly all you need. So from that, because of that, I'm always wanting to help other people. Because of that, anything bad that happens, I'm like, there's a purpose for this. Because of that, I'm able to take the really crummy experiences in my life and sit there and be like, listen, I got through it, so you can too. And maybe that's why you see me as such a positive person these days. But I feel sorry. I truly feel sorry for the people that I interacted with. Maybe it's 7, 8 years ago now, because I was vicious. I was brutal, and
I don't believe that at all. I
I
doubt it.
loved
I've never
getting
seen you be vicious or brutal ever. I doubt any of that is true.
loved getting under people's skin without raising my voice, without really making a scene. And I really just loved eating them alive on the inside without them actually knowing that's what I was doing. It was
It's quite a
very
talent.
vishous. Huh?
It's quite a talent too for
It's
to
a
be able to
talent.
be
It's a
poignant without yelling or screaming. It's quite
It's
a talent.
true. It's true. And that was something that I was proud of for the longest time. And I'm just so like, wow. I think of those people and my heart's all like, oh my gosh.
Again, I don't believe you. I'm gonna have to
I
fact
know
check
you
that
don't.
one. Don't believe you. Don't think you could be vicious at all. You're the nicest person on the planet. So yeah, it's
Thank God. Thank God I am today. But that is what I mean. I could just take myself back to. And when you were talking about like the what'd you say? The young is wasted on the youth. Is that what you
youth is
said?
wasting on the young. I heard that like the other day, and I'm like,
I
what is that?
I thought
What
it
does that
always
mean?
was the energy was wasted on the youth.
Wisdom, energy, everything is
Yeah.
wasted on the young.
Well, I mean, did I have wisdom when I was that young? Isn't that what we're trying to counteract? But
I think that's the point. Like we just you don't have the wisdom and experience when you're young, and when you're older and you finally get that, you're like, I wish I had this earlier. But it's just the like we just said, like, well, would I have gotten the wisdom experience if I hadn't gone through those things?
right.
We could all do things a little bit better, but was that really the point about shaping who we are now? So
Exactly. Exactly. And I was sitting there thinking, like, how do you even define what young is? Because
true.
it's always changing, is
Yeah.
always changing. I mean, I can remember being at brandings when I was a kid. And then you look at these 20, 30-year-olds and your child and you're like, oh my gosh, they're so old. And then you become that 20, 30-year-old at the brandings and you're like, I'm so young. And then I even look at, 60-year-olds at this point. I'm like, wow, you're still so young, And it's all like, what is young?
Yeah, 30 is a new 20, 40 is a new 30. So I'm
Yeah.
assuming 60 is a new 50. Again, those trials and things that we learn along the way are very important and set
Yeah.
the stage for later on. And
I
like you
definitely
said,
agree.
having the right pathway, having the right focus, that sets you for success. For when you make your mistakes, you have your why and you know which direction you're supposed to be going in, versus you're lost at sea,
Hmm.
metaphorically, where the wind blows you left and right. So I
Hmm.
agree with that. But if you
And
want to
we
be a great property manager, I'm happy to give you a whole course on like do X, Y, and Z. And there's people a lot smarter than me that can give you that information all day long.
And now that you've had the connections with Jordan and
Danny,
Danny, thank you. Good
Daniel,
cut.
sorry.
Yeah, cut that out. Don't want to offend anybody. Uh, no, but and I mean, even just that mindset of being able to like share the value versus being like looking at somebody as a competitor. I mean, all throughout life, we're just constantly learning from our failures, but it's also important to learn from our successes as well to be able to share those little tidbits, right?
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
So I so appreciate you, Jayson. Is there anything that you want to say before we close out?
Find me on Instagram, JasonSD2000, or my company, GWMPM, because we're always posting our reality TV drama or the good things as well up there. And then our YouTube as well, Golden West Management on our YouTube channel. It's absolutely amazing to see all the feedback when we film evictions or tenant lockouts, or it's just right now I've got a video that's got 600,000 views, and people just don't realize that sometimes the landlord tenant law
Mm-hmm.
doesn't protect them as landlords. More importantly, it's not built on common sense. And so there's a reason why you have tenants who can squat for 2, 3, 4 years. There's a reason why you can't, if somebody doesn't pay the rent, they can't just be out in 30 days. There's a reason
Mm-hmm.
why we as professional managers have a job. And so we've taken that and put it into a social media setting so you can see, like, and comment on what goes beyond.
And I will have all of that linked below too. So that
And you
way
can
you
see me
guys,
skiing with triplets. So there we go.
and you do, you get to see his wonderful kids. But that is why Jayson and Teddy Bear Roy are the property management experts, because they're
Right.
sharing it out there, they're living it, they're doing it, they're cleaning out the fridges with cockroaches. Ooh. They're handling the stress. But thank you, Jayson, so much. Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody
Drea.
who's
So much
watching.
appreciated.
You're so welcome. I can't wait. But it's if you guys have a story too that you feel you're led to share, I am here for it. Give me a shout out at Drea@DreaHespen.com at this point, or you can find me on social media as well. So you guys all take care.